one of the first things to remember is that the goal is safety. So safety is not an outcome of just suppression. Safety is an outcome of all these other, asset building, relationships, all the other things that we've talked about that. And our, in my experience working collaboratively with communities, including, in Langley Park since 2005, with a succession of projects. One of them was called Safer Latinos, another one was called the Adelante intervention. These were all collaborative community interventions that involved, that worked in the schools. We worked in building community advisory boards. We worked with parents. We had youth on the community advisory boards. And usually what we did was to try and get from the community what the community thought the causes of, the violence or other youth risk behavior, because we also addressed other things, were. And then we tried to build an intervention based on that community causation model. And, none of those involved having more police or law enforcement. They were all things like, for example, dealing with, in a community where there's a lot of sequential migration and kids come in and there's a lot of family conflict and so on and so forth, just as one factor among many that pushes kids out into a situation where they might be vulnerable to gang recruitment. All right, so maybe the intervention that we have to do there, we had an intervention in that project called social promotoras. They were like health promoters, except they were supposed to focus on identifying family conflict situations and in sort of a lay person way, try to address those, or if they could not, we worked with the Maryland Multicultural Youth Center, and we had counseling and other things like that available in the community. But just to make a long story short, I mean, we all of these interventions tried to come up with these multiple alternative ways of addressing what's going on that makes kids vulnerable to or involved in violence. But most kids don't want to do that. They don't want to be involved in that. They don't want to be either a victim or a perpetrator of that kind of thing. So, so you have to backtrack and say, well, then why is it happening? Because this just doesn't make sense.